started a production company called Gen 6 Productions.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided that we wanted to go around the world to important areas in the world, locations where we can find and document evidence of the pre-flood world, of the technology of the fallen ones, the fallen angels, and their offspring, and also just find evidence, uncover evidence that points to the existence of giants and other entities from the pre-flood world. Absolutely agree with your statement that it was a power grab. On the basis level, these angels lusted after the daughters of men, but they also wanted, as you said, to have power, to have dominion in the earth, which of course you know was given to Adam and his progeny. And they also wanted to have progeny themselves. They wanted to have offspring.
Yes.
And this was the beginning of a gigantic genetic mess that was to ensue out of this rebellious, lustful desire and act of insubordination by these 200 watchers. So when they descended to the earth and began to mingle themselves with the sons of Adam, with the human race, they created a situation that most people would have a hard time even imagining, even comprehending. But it was a mixture of all kinds of genetic corruption happening, the production of non-human offspring, the giving of knowledge, the transfer, let's say, of knowledge, of forbidden knowledge to the human race. Ultimately, what happened was rebellion against God, insubordination against God. We believe that most of the megalithic, if not all of the megalithic structures found on this planet, structures that are also referred to as cyclopean edifices, cyclopean technology is buildings, edifices that are built with massive stones, megalithic stones, usually without the use of mortar. This is referred to as cyclopean technology. We believe that that kind of technology is technology that has its origin in the era, in the epoch before the flood of Noah. So what we see now around the world in terms of the ruins, the megalithic ruins, is the remnant of a world that was destroyed in the flood of Noah. A world in which there were entities in operation that were not fully human. The giants, the Nephilim, and all the offspring of the Watchers, and they were the ones who built these structures. That's the premise that we're working off of, and that we're proving to be true. Well, we flew into Peru. We went to Puno, Peru to start our journey. Puno is sort of a gateway into Bolivia. It's not far from the border. It was sort of the area we were based out of. We wanted to go and visit the alleged Stargate of Aramumuru, which is in Peru, and then we wanted to go across the border to Tiwanaku, to Pumapunku, and also we were very interested in fact, the driving factor of why we went to Puno in the first place was to follow up on the astounding discovery that David Flynn had made some years ago, I believe in 2012, when he was viewing satellite imagery over the whole region of the Altiplano. He discovered these massive geoglyphs imprinted into the mountains and on the earth. And so the whole area was very mysterious, and obviously we knew about the ruins of Tiwanaku, Pumapunku, so we decided to go there. Now the Altiplano, like you said, is a very interesting place because it's about 13,000 feet above sea level, and it stretches from Peru into Bolivia, into parts of Argentina and Chile, and it's a flat plain. It's the second highest plain in the world, second only to Tibet. And as you said, that causes a very interesting situation in terms of the preservation of the artifacts that are there. It doesn't rain much, and the altitude and so forth has really inhibited the amount of building that you can do up there. You can't really construct huge cities up there because of the altitude. So a lot of the artifacts are intact and are well preserved, and so we wanted to go take a look at those. And we spent a good deal of time right across the border in Bolivia, in the town of Tiwanaku, where the famous ruins of Pumapunku are located, and then the other facilities, such as the Temple of Kalasasaya and the other ruined structures in that area. Inca, obviously the Inca Empire the capital of the Inca Empire was in Cusco, Peru, but their empire extended all the way from what is now Colombia, all the way down the coast of the Pacific Ocean into Chile. And so that was part of their domain, that area. And the Inca and also the other natives that lived there believed that the structures at Tiwanaku and Pumapunku were built in the age before the Great Flood. This is what they believed. In fact, the artifacts that remain there, the large megalithic stones, the ruins that remain in that area, are buried under about 10 feet of sediment that we know was deposited as a result of a great flood. A great wave must have washed over the land, because we have in the soil, we have calcified seashells and other calcified animals from the ocean. In some cases, there's red sandstone, which isn't very hard, but andesite is a very hard stone. And what you find in Pumapunku is absolutely perfect right angles cut into the stone. The blocks were built as interlocking pieces, so the blocks interlocked with each other. It was built to be resistant to earthquakes, to seismic activity. It was aligned with the stars, precisely with the stars, as are all megaliths. So not only are we dealing with an advanced building technology, we're also dealing with an advanced understanding of cosmology, of astrology and astronomy.
Yes.
I mean, these things are aligned precisely with the stars, certain constellations, and the blocks are massive. I mean, there's blocks that weigh over 100 tons that were quarried from, in some cases, 70 miles away. You mentioned that the whole Altiplano was most likely at one time elevated. There was an upheaval, and that's exactly what most people believe happened, including us. We believe that there was a cataclysmic event, i.e. the flood of Noah, that caused a great upheaval. And the Bible talks about the waters not only coming down, but also coming up through the earth. So certainly there would have been earthquakes and a great tumult on the earth. And during that period of time, it is very likely that the whole Altiplano that was once at sea level, in fact, it's very possible that Pumapunku was a seaport. There's evidence that Lake Titicaca, which is the largest navigable lake the highest and largest navigable lake in the world, and Lake Titicaca seems to be a remnant from the sea, basically a basin, if you will, of water that was at one time seawater, that when that land rose up, some of the water was still contained in the lake. And so you have Lake Titicaca and you have the whole Altiplano, a very strange location on the earth. It's a very strange place to be, and it's a very mysterious place. And the Tiwanaku ruins, surprisingly, it was a very oppressive place. The atmosphere is very oppressive, and there's a strange mystique in that whole area, and you really, really get the sense that you are standing in the midst of perhaps what was at one time a great city that was decimated in the flood of Noah, and a city that, in my opinion, was very likely not built with human hands, or at least not only with human hands. Steve has been writing about giants for many years, so we're always looking for artifacts relating to giants, including the bones of giants, historical accounts of giants, evidence of giants, and coming from a biblical perspective, with the flood of Noah and the pre-flood world and understanding based on the 6th chapter of Genesis, we have discovered that not only are there references to giants in the Bible, but when you take a look at the records from the ancient world, and even from more recent times, such as in the era of the Renaissance and all the way up to the 18th and 19th centuries, even here in the United States, you find evidence everywhere, recorded, written evidence of giants and giant bones. And of course, there are many different myths and tales all over the earth concerning giants, but we're looking for the bones, the evidence of giants, the historical records that giants existed. And that's precisely what we found in Peru. But the problem is that the existence of giants does not fit with the paradigm of evolution by natural selection in Darwinism, for one thing. Another thing is that the existence of the bones of giants and evidence pertaining to giants and the pre-flood world, by the way, it's not just about giants, it's about the true prehistory of this planet, also validates the Bible. It validates the text of scriptures, of the scriptures. But on top of those two ideas, Steve Quayle has a saying, those who control the past determine the future. And so if you can control the narrative of the past, of prehistory, then you can fabricate a deception concerning the future. But if people know the truth concerning the past, it's going to be much more difficult to pull the wool over their eyes concerning the lies and the deceptions that are coming in the future. Because again, the true history of this planet absolutely validates the text of Scripture. And this is something that is essential for Bible-believing Christians to understand, that what happened in the pre-flood world in the days of Noah, even in an astrological sense, the arrangement of the stars, it's all happening again. We are literally going full circle. The days of Noah are now the days in which we live. In other words, we're going back to what the world was like before God destroyed it in the flood. And obviously, we believe that there are prophetic indications in the Bible pointing to that reality. But even for those who find it difficult to believe in the prophetic indications, just look at what's happening in the world around us, with transhumanism and the genetic manipulation that's taking place. That's precisely the mess that led to the flood in the first place. What you discover is a cover-up relating to the prehistory of this planet, relating to what truly was happening. And again, you find absolute validation of the text of Scripture. And the pre-flood world, one of the major reasons why it's not just a cover-up about giants, it's a cover-up about the whole idea that of the pre-flood world. This was, we can call it the empire of the gods, the Atlantean time, when the gods mingled themselves with men, and again, were teaching the human race and their hybrid offspring technology that they were not supposed to have. And after the flood, the technology, the knowledge that came from them, from the watchers, from the fallen angels, was dispersed, especially after the Tower of Babel. But after the flood, it was dispersed. I think it was regathered to a degree at the Tower of Babel, but then God put a stop to that, divided the tongues, and the knowledge of the fallen angels was dispersed all over the earth, now preserved in the secret societies and mystery schools, and they're trying to bring it all together again now in the times in which we live. These are, in fact, a repeat. We are entering the repeat of the days of Noah. It will, because in order to understand what will be and what is, we absolutely have to understand what was. Because, again, we're going full circle. And the days, a lot of the prophetic material in the Bible that speaks to the days which are coming and the days that are upon us now have to do with the dynamics that were taking place in the world before the flood of Noah. And so what I'm telling people, and what Steve and I are trying to get across to people in the True Legends and the documentary series, is that we have to understand the context the context of the days in which we're living. We want people to understand that, so we're going back to the past. We're trying to show them that there is an explanation for some of the things that are about to start happening on the earth, things that are going to blow people's minds. People are going to be, I believe a lot of people are going to lose their faith when certain things begin to unfold because they were not prepared. They did not have a biblical foundation that will give them the proper explanation for the things that are unfolding and that are going to unfold. And that's what our desire is, to prepare people. There is definitely a cover-up concerning the bones of giants. And everywhere we go, by the way, looking for evidence of giants, we run into that cover-up everywhere. And we've interviewed people. We're not just, in the first episode of our documentary series, Technology of the Fallen, we document exhaustively a lot of historical records that come out of the archives in Peru that the chroniclers wrote. And these are the same guys. These are the chroniclers that wrote the history of the conquest of Peru. This is where we get our history from. These guys are talking about giants in no uncertain terms. Very, very large giants, full skeletons, mummified bodies of giants, 15 feet plus. And so, and they also describe how many of those bones were confiscated or burned. And in other places of the world, in the further episodes that are following this episode, which are in production right now, we interview all kinds of people who have actually seen with their eyes the bones and skeletons of giants. And we're talking about in the 50s, 60s, 70s, all the way up to 2005. The bodies and bones of giants. Yeah, we saw some absolutely mind-blowing stuff. And in this particular episode, we visited the megalithic site of Tiwanaku and Pumapunku, and we went to the alleged Stargate of Aramumudu. We went out on the legendary Lake Titicaca and talked with people about UFOs and all kinds of things. Talked with the natives out there. So it was very exciting. And in order to truly, in my opinion, in order to truly understand Bible prophecy, we have to understand the context in which concerning what's being spoken about. And when you talk about the latter days, you're talking about a scenario that is sort of a replay of something that happened in the former days. And when I say that, I'm talking about the world before the flood of Noah, which was of course populated by not only giants, but all kinds of entities that were produced as a result of the illicit activity of fallen angels. And that's the framework that we really need to understand, in my opinion, in order to have a grasp, a proper comprehension of the things that are getting ready to unfold in the days in which we live. Less than human.
Less than human.
And it's the idea of 10 kings is, as you well know, is a subject that obviously comes up in Bible prophecy in numerous places, including the book of Revelation. But not only in Bible prophecy, this idea of 10 kings is a reoccurring theme that shows up in the esoteric and archaic writings of many different civilizations, especially the Greeks and the Romans, and everybody's familiar with the legend of Atlantis. Well, whether or not Atlantis was a physical place, a real brick and mortar city, the idea of Atlantis is a portrayal, is a representation, it is symbolic of the antediluvian world, the world before the flood, when the sons of God, the angels, mingled themselves with the daughters of men and produced a hybrid race of giants and all kinds of hybridized creatures that were sentient beings, and perhaps even far more intelligent than we are. They had the DNA of angels. And the Bible says that man was created to be a little lower than the angels, and that's Adam. And we're nothing like Adam was. He was far superior to us in his mental capacity and in his physical capacity. So, we can imagine what kind of beings would come as a result of the genetic mixture of angels with humans, angelic DNA with human DNA. Those are the entities that existed in this time that is prefigured in or that is symbolized in Atlantis. Atlantis was said to have had 10 kings. By the way, 10 giant kings. And the kings of Atlantis were hybrids. They were the sons of Poseidon and a human woman. And Atlas was the chief among them. There were 5 sets of twins. There were 10 kings. And this idea of 10 kings is also, again, represented in the book of Revelation, where these 10 kings give their power, their authority to the beast, and the beast also receives authority not only from the 10 kings who are giving authority concerning the governance of the earth. They're also, we can say, political authority. The beast also receives authority from the devil himself, from his father, the devil, who gives him his authority as well. So we're talking about an individual who is invested with an absolutely unimaginable degree of authority on the earth. And yes, I don't believe that those 10 kings are going to be fully human. I think that the scripture in Daniel that says they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men is referencing something. The they is something other than men. And so there is an event coming in which I believe that we are going to be introduced to our progenitors, the gods of the old world, who we know as fallen angels and demons and those entities who are insubordinate against the living God and in an alliance with the devil. It is the truth that certain powers and societies, secret societies, are desperate to keep from the lay people of the earth, those who are not initiated. And so this knowledge, the knowledge of these entities in the pre-flood world and the fall of the Watchers, who, by the way, we talked about the conspiracy, the secret. The ones who are keeping these secrets are Luciferian. They believe that they take the Bible inverted. They take the gospel inverted. They believe that Satan, Lucifer, is the true liberator of mankind, that he is the one who illumines the human race. He is the one who is concerned with our freedom and our illumination, and that God, the God that we know, and the Son of God are the tyrants. This is what the Luciferian doctrine says. And that Lucifer, like Prometheus, brought us fire from the gods and taught mankind civilization. And not only Lucifer, but the fallen angels are the true progenitors of mankind. They're the true benefactors of mankind. They're our friends. This is the lie that they believe. And again, when I say they, we're talking about a very complex and compartmentalized group of individuals who are, again, Luciferian in terms of the practical side of the conspiracy. We're talking about technology, ancient technology that is superior to what we have today in some cases. And so there's also been a concerted effort to attain that technology, to find it, to go out and dig and uncover the technology, uncover the knowledge, and then incorporate it into the defense programs. For example, the defense programs in the United States to build weapons, to build all kinds of things, vehicles, using you mentioned that the Atlantis or Arcadia had a certain power source that nobody knows what it was, but they had their own power source. Right. So what was it? Well, I'm here to tell you that the military knows what it was, now has reverse engineered it, and is deploying it in the battlefield. But that's not the technology that we see on CNN or Fox News. That's top secret, classified technology. It's not from the future Star Trek era. It's not from the Star Wars, some sort of a Star Wars reality in the future. It is from the distant
we're going
and
there,
archaic, whether they like it or not.
Okay.
So you can sit in a car and say, I don't want to go to wherever you're headed. But if you're sitting in the car and you're on your way, too bad. You're on your way. And we are on our way to the days of Noah, and we're all sitting in the car. And so whether we like it or not, we have to understand what is the relevance of that. And when I say we're on our way to the days of Noah, we are entering right now, Gary, as you well know, we are entering the hybrid age. That is the age that we are entering, just like the industrial era, the industrial age, where the manufacturing capabilities of humanity really was accelerated. Well, we are entering the hybrid age. Not only is it not sci-fi, in some cases, these are projects that are being developed with our money. Indeed. So again, whether you like it or not, you are participating, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't, worried about our taxes going to that sort of project, but whether we like it or not, the Pentagon is developing this technology, and it's using the resources of our nation to develop that technology. And the reason why they're developing super soldier technology, one of the reasons, is because China's doing it, and Russia's doing it. And obviously that's a very frightening prospect for us.
And it's human hybridization.
It's human hybridization. It's human hybridization, hybridizing the human genome with the genome of other living things, but also it's also cybernetics and nanotechnology. It's hybridizing, if you will, human beings with machines. So you have this whole mixture of human hybridization, mixing different biological genomes together, and then also integrating machinery into biology. That there is an event coming that is going to be so mind-blowing, it's going to be so paradigm shifting, that if believers are not well anchored, obviously in the gospel of Jesus Christ first and foremost, but also having a good understanding of Bible prophecy, especially as it relates to the days of Noah, just as Jesus said. And a lot of people don't like it when we reference the days of Noah and talk about giants and talk about fallen angels, because they want to say, well, the days of Noah was just about, all Jesus meant was that destruction is coming suddenly, that they were eating and drinking and marrying and being given in marriage, and then destruction came swiftly. And yes, that's true. And yes, I believe Jesus was talking about the suddenness of the destruction that's coming. But as you well know, there's always, most of the time, an underlying truths, hidden things in the Bible, laced throughout the Bible. And I believe that when Jesus referenced the days of Noah, he was talking about that hybridization, that specific situation that led to the flood, the insubordination against God by those fallen angels, and the absolute genetic mess that they created on the earth to such an extent that God had to wipe the slate clean with the flood. Those are the kind of days that we're entering into. That is precisely what we see. We are entering into the hybrid age. It is happening. I believe that this figure, who we call the Antichrist, is not going to be just a simple political leader. Is not just going to be a great leader of men, somebody who can bring the nations together and solve a lot of the earth's problems. I believe that it goes far beyond just being some sort of political figurehead. I believe that this man is not going to be fully human, frankly. I believe that he is going, obviously we know lying signs and wonders are coming.
Sure.
And I believe that he is coming on, I believe he is coming in the clouds, and every eye will see him. And I'm not talking about Jesus. I believe it is a counterfeit. He's going to come and deceive even the elect if it were possible. That's how strong that deception is going to be. He's going to mimic the coming of Christ, and he's going to the reference to a strange God, an alien God. I believe he's coming with them. In other words, there's going to be an event, and a so-called alien event that is going to happen in the near future that is going to bring the world to an absolute halt. And it's going to, again, absolutely change the paradigm of not only the secular world, but unfortunately of many Christians who are not founded in the truth and who do not have a context
there are many
for what
reasons
is coming, why there would be a cover-up. And we were talking earlier that we were filming on the island of Sardinia, which is coming in our third episode. Right now we're producing episode 2, and then we're going to get to episode 3, which is going to feature some amazing testimonies. And we found evidence in Sardinia of a cover-up not only relating to the giants themselves, but also relating to the artifacts that the giants were in possession of. Not only the technological artifacts, but the vast amounts of gold and the vast amounts of precious jewels and those sort of artifacts that are being confiscated, that are being stolen and sold in a black market. And that's another layer of the conspiracy. That's another reason why it would be covered up, because if there were giants, which there were, if they were in possession of vast amounts of gold and technology that nobody thought existed back then, well, both the gold and the technology could be secreted away, right? Because who believes in giants? After all, we all evolved from monkeys and amoebas. So who believes in giants? So as long as people are believing these lies, these guys can operate in secret and extract the technology, extract the gold, extract whatever else they want, because to everybody else it's a fiction, right? So that's as we expose the fact that yes, giants existed. It's not just about the fact that giants existed. It's about all the implications associated with the fact that giants existed, especially absolutely proving, without a shadow of a doubt, that the Bible is true and the literal interpretation of Genesis 6 is correct. And here on our logo, on the True Legends logo, obviously people are probably wondering why we have a flying saucer.
Yeah.
Well, you talked about what people think are legends, right? So while we're down here talking about sometimes people arguing amongst themselves, is it really true, the literal interpretation of Genesis 6, the fallen angels, high technology in the past? As we're arguing about these things, their technology is flying around in the skies above our head, whether we like it or not. It's there, it's here now, it's in use, it's being deployed on the battlefields, it's being deployed in the atmosphere. And again, as I said before, it's not some sort of futuristic Star Trek technology. It comes from the antediluvian things are happening so quickly, it's hard to keep up with them. And a lot of people have told me and have expressed to me how they feel like time is accelerating. Certainly technology is accelerating. Technology is accelerating at a frightening pace.
It is.
Pretty soon, 20 years ago, we only dreamt of artificial intelligence, for example. I think within the next 10 years, it's going to become a reality. And that's just one of a dozen different technologies that are that were science fiction 10 years, 20 years ago that are now becoming science fiction.